Well, fortunately for all of us, Week 7 of the 2016 NFL season's officially in the books. Thank God. This is bad. Okay, let's just call it as we see it, and more on that in a little bit. But Week 7's come and gone, and it's quite a bit in the rearview mirror now. So this is my time each week. A little bit later, it seems like it's getting each week. Maybe because this shit's getting so bad that I'm starting to not give a fuck about it. Let's take a look back at the week that was. And I'll talk about some of the top stories or highlights from the week first. First, I got to look at Ajayi. His second straight week rushing for over 200 yards and leading the Dolphins to victory again over, this time, the Buffalo Bills. I mean, that's impressive stuff to go over 200 yards in back-to-back weeks at a position like running back that has been so devalued, and there's so many running back by committee situations. It makes you wonder why the Dolphins weren't starting him from the jump and why they didn't take him in their opening week game against Seattle. Was it really that bad? Or maybe that was the type of motivation that Jay Ajayi needed to show what he is showing the last 2 weeks. This dude is running with purpose. He is running with anger. He's running with fire and passion in his belly, and it's been impressive to see for sure. And now the Dolphins, while not a good team, have found a way to kind of save their season under first-year head coach Adam Gase. Speaking of saving seasons and saving coaches' jobs, at least for the time being, you got to look at the San Diego Chargers. Before the season, I talked about how this was not a good football team. They still aren't a good football team. However, this is their second straight quality win that they got. Last week, they beat the Denver Broncos in primetime on Thursday night. They come back on Sunday, and the Falcons pissed the game down their legs late, whatever the hell. Yeah, they screwed it up that bad. I even got the saying screwed up. So there you go, the Chargers. When everybody's talking about Mike McCoy potentially being fired, now they've beaten the Broncos and Falcons in back-to-back weeks, and the Falcons game was a road game, so that shit was really impressive. So at least for the moment, McCoy's job is probably safe until probably the end of the season. And oh, Sam Bradford struck once again, like anybody would be fucking surprised. I haven't said a ton since the Sam Bradford trade happened after my initial little quip about the Vikings being fucking stupid and overreacting and panicking, giving so much up for such a mediocre quarterback. Part of the reason for that is I don't need to say anything more in a lot of cases than what I've already said. This is year 7 of Sam Bradford's NFL career. He is what he fucking is. He is a mediocre NFL starting quarterback. And I figure, let the season play out, and when he's the reason the Vikings don't advance further in the playoffs, then everybody will understand. But you're talking about this game on Sunday going into Philadelphia. This has got revenge game written all over. You would think Sam Bradford, his team is 5. No, he's had 2 weeks to prepare for the team that he was just a part of. And mind you, not just last season, but all throughout the offseason and training camp and preseason games, to the point where he is very familiar with Doug Peterson's system. He knows what they're running offensively, defensively. He knows at least somewhat what Schwartz is going to run on the defensive side of the ball. And he laid that fucking egg. Now, granted, Carson Wentz wasn't great, but he most certainly was better than Sam fucking Bradford. And you look at it now, the Vikings lose their first game of the year. The Eagles kind of, stub the tide a little bit after winning 3 straight to start the season. That poorly timed bye week for them. They lose 2 straight. Then they come back and rebound nicely against a quality opponent like the Minnesota Vikings. And Sam Bradford stuck once again. The other big story to me this week are the shitty primetime and featured games of the NFL. And this is becoming a week in, week out problem. Chicago Green Bay on Thursday night was bad. The Sunday morning London game, the Giants and the Rams, that was bad. I mean, a featured game with Case Keenum as the starting quarterback. Come on now. And again, Goff can't do that. But you look at the Sunday night game, Seahawks and Cardinals, a freaking 6-6 tie? A 6-6 tie. These are supposed to be contending teams in the NFC, and they're battling each other to a 6-6 God-loving fucking tie. Holy hell. And then the Monday night game was Houston and Denver. You got supposedly good teams playing bad football. You got bad teams playing terrible football. The majority of these primetime matchups are just underwhelming in so many different areas. And this shit has to stop. And it needs to be fixed because I find myself losing more interest each week in this NFL season. Now let's move on quickly to the winners and losers. I really don't want to talk much more about this fucking disaster of a week. The winners, Detroit Lions. They're sitting at 1-3, and all of a sudden now, without much of a running game present. Even though Zenner and Forsett give them a little bit out of the backfield, but not much. Matthew Stafford and the Lions have found a way to win 3 straight games. They're sitting there now at 4-3 and got to be feeling good about themselves, getting ready to head towards the second half of the season. The Philadelphia Eagles, like I said, they started 3-0, then had the poorly timed for them bye week where I think it disrupted some of their rhythm, and then they lose 2 straight games to come back and beat Sam Bradford. It had to feel really damn good about the Eagles being in the right direction, and now they're sitting at 4-2, and they're not losing much pace in that race for what is all of a sudden the best division in football. Believe it or not, the NFC least is now the NFC best. I can't believe I'm saying that shit. The Miami Dolphins. A couple of weeks ago, they looked like a discombobulated mess, but Ajayi's had back-to-back 200-yard games, and now the Dolphins are sitting at 3-4 and sitting there and beating a divisional opponent this time in the Buffalo Bills, who had a lot of momentum on their own, sitting there being winners of 4 straight, coming in and really trying to sit there and maybe create some distance between themselves and the Dolphins and other teams in the AFC in terms of maybe the wild card race. Now the Bills drop a game that they should win, and that's what Rex Ryan coach teams do. And then the Denver Broncos. It had to feel really damn good for them to sit there and make Brock Osweiler look like a turd on Monday Night Football. Had to feel great. For a team that was scuffling a little bit, this was the type of medicine that they needed. They have to feel really good about the fact that Trevor Siemian outplayed freaking Brock Osweiler. They've still got Paxton Lynch there for the future. And it was the Houston Texans that devoted all that money to Brock Osweiler. Sometimes the best moves that are made are the ones that you don't make. And the Denver Broncos and what they didn't do with Brock Osweiler with letting him go in free agency to the Texans is a perfect example of just that. Now, in terms of the losers this week, I got to go with the Rams. You sit there and you lose your opening game on Monday night in a shutout, and then you win 3 in a row, and people are starting to talk about you a little bit. Then, of course, being a Jeff Fisher coach team, they proceed to lose 3 straight games after that. And again, I'm just saying, this team is 3-4. You either have to be stubbornly stupid or just plain stupid. You cannot possibly tell me, as you're watching Case Keenum throw 4 picks in London, that Jared Goff couldn't at least do that or, God forbid, be at least a little bit better. Like, Case Keenum is not progressing. Case Keenum is not getting any better. And it's ridiculous to me that a team that traded up like they did to get up to number 1 overall to take the wrong quarterback in Goff when they should have taken fucking Wentz is sitting there and not playing him. That's indefensible. That's ridiculous. Goff can maybe bring you some big play elements. Some people are going to say, well, maybe he's not ready, or maybe he's not this. Or maybe Jeff Fisher and that coaching staff are fucking morons. Did we ever think about that? The Buffalo Bills have to be losers because you're sitting and looking at a team after losing their first 2, had won 4 straight, was feeling really good about themselves, was in a position where they could really cement themselves into a wild card spot here in the next few weeks, really, based off of the way this shitty season is going. So with teams like Cincinnati kind of scuffling a little bit, and then, you got the teams in the AFC West, the Bills really needed this game because you're only going to get 1 playoff team out of the AFC South. So it's Cincinnati and 1 or 2 other teams out of the AFC West that they're really contending with here. They needed to win this game against the Dolphins, so of course Rex Ryan didn't have them prepared, and they didn't do that. On the flip side, you look at the NFC, and the Atlanta Falcons. You got Matt Ryan throwing bad picks, Dan Quinn with questionable coaching decisions. This was a home game the Falcons had to have because at this point in time, when you started off relatively well, especially with the controversial loss they had last week to the Seahawks, you're the Falcons, you're sitting there. The Bucs really aren't competition for you in that division. The Saints most certainly aren't. And at this point in time, we don't know if Carolina's ever going to right their ship or not. You want to run away and hide as much as you possibly can if you're the Atlanta Falcons. And winning a game like this against a not very good team in San Diego at home is a perfect place to do that. So, of course, the Atlanta Falcons lost. So a team that should be looking at 5-2 and at least having a 3, and what figuratively being based off of the earlier season win over Carolina, a 3.5 game lead over the Panthers, and a big lead in the division over the Buccaneers and the Saints. Now they're sitting at 4-3, and the NFC South is still open season. But ultimately, the biggest losers, once again, this NFL season in Week 7 had to be the fans. We're seeing some really shitty football. Now, people are going to talk about some of the rules changes, the style changes. They're going to talk about taking the fun out of the game, and they're going to talk about all of this. And all of that is true. Some of this is just bad scheduling and scheduling crappy matchups in featured spots. I mean, who schedules a London game between the Giants and the Rams and thinks that that's going to be a showcase of American football at its finest? You know what I mean? And even like Chicago and Green Bay, you could say it's a divisional rivalry. You're getting the Chicago media market involved in that Thursday night game. Your ratings should be higher. And in theory, that's true. But that doesn't speak to the fact that this is going to be a shitty football game with one of the teams being really bad. I mean, who books this shit? Who schedules this shit? That's my question. Yes, the stupid fucking penalties, flagging guys for dancing. You know, the NFL has much bigger things to worry about right now than worrying about flagging fucking dudes for doing pelvic thrust after scoring a goddamn touchdown. The games are bad. Just everything about this product is fucking bad. And it kind of harkens back to the old saying of too much of a good thing isn't a good thing at all. Maybe we're seeing that a little bit. Where now every week, every single week, you've got a game on Thursday night. You know, lots of weeks now, you've also got the Sunday morning game. Then in London, then you've got 2 games Sunday afternoon. Then you've got the Sunday night game. And then you've got the Monday night game. So if you're a pretty ardent football fan, Thursday night, Sunday morning, Sunday early afternoon, Sunday late afternoon, Sunday evening, Monday night, that is 6 NFL games. Not to mention Saturday, a lot of dudes are probably watching college football. Now you got the World Series going on at this particular time. You got all this other shit. This is just too much damn football. And it's especially too much damn football when the product isn't good. You could speak to, is it the reduction in practice time? Is it this? Is it that? Is it the gradual shift to being more of a aerial-based game as opposed to a ground-based, physicality-based game? It's all of those fucking things. This product is bad. And like I said, I'm losing interest by the week. And it's not just because the Bears suck. You know, let's face it, for a lot of years of my life, the Bears have sucked. And I still loved the NFL and still enjoyed watching football and still enjoyed the product. I'm not really enjoying the product right now. It's bad. And that's what makes the NFL fans the biggest losers of the week, because they have to sit there and sift through all this shit and hope that eventually they get a good featured primetime game. Would that be too much to ask? A fucking 6-6 tie on Sunday night with 2 supposedly contenders in the NFC. Holy shit. Bad.